Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. This is the Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee meeting, Monday, December 9th. Our first agenda item is approval. Okay, thank you. Thanks everyone for being here.
I fixed it. It's okay.
Okay. Is that my voice?
It was. I fixed it. It's fine.
All right. So the recommendation before us is that Parks, Trails, and Greenways Advisory Committee approve the agenda for the Monday, December 9th meeting. So as I'm not sure if everyone heard, but Sarah pointed out that Greenways is written as green spaces in a few places on the agenda.
That's okay. You're not on for a bit. Okay.
So
Yes, I'll do that right now.
I'll just wait till she's
Be personal. Okay. Bye.
Oh, Carla's here, coming in.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I thought I muted myself. Sorry.
That's all right. So approval of the agenda. There are some noted edits required. Green space occurs in a number of spots rather than greenways. Sarah's mentioned that already. It's in some of the recommendations as well. So
I can fix those. That's fine.
yeah. And I did notice that under council referrals 4.1, the recommendation says that the Housing Advisory Committee.
Yeah. I caught that as well. I fixed that for the actual one that we're doing tonight.
Oh, okay. All right. Does anyone else have any comments on the agenda? No? Okay. Can I have someone move to accept the agenda?
As amended,
As amended, thank you.
I'll second that. Or
Okay, so I think Penny moved and DG seconded. All in favor? As amended by Sarah, thank you. Then we are on to adoption of the minutes. And hopefully some folks had a chance to look through them. Did anyone have any edits or corrections or omissions to bring up? No, everyone was good with them. Okay, can I have someone move to accept the minutes of our last meeting? Lawrence, thank you. Seconded Jeremy, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you. And we are on to public comments, of which I don't believe we have any.
I'll just double check. There's a few. No, there's no one there.
Okay. And so council referrals. So this is the application for a rezoning and an OCP amendment at 1360 Mount Gardner Road. And Drew is here. Welcome, Drew. Thank you for joining us. And please go ahead at your will.
Thank you. So I'll share my screen, and yeah, so I'm the island community planner for municipality, and it's been the first time I've done a meeting with you guys, so it's nice to meet you all, or I guess one or two of you I know already. Anyways. Okay, so yeah. So this report is to introduce a rezoning application for, yes, 1360 Mount Gardner Road. This was introduced to council at the regular meeting on October 15th. It was then referred to this committee as well as the Advisory Planning Commission and the Housing Advisory Committee for a recommendation. So this is a rezoning and OCP amendment application to rezone the address I described from rural residential 3 to settlement residential 1C, and from the current official community plan designation of rural residential, which is RS, to a new designation allowing potential subdivision. That OCP designation has not yet been determined since no applicable OCP designation exists under the existing bylaw for that lot size. So a new designation will have to be drafted. The site itself is just over 3 acres or 1.25 hectares in size. Currently has a single family dwelling with multiple accessory buildings. The property is not serviced by community water or sewer. The proposed rezoning would allow a subdivision of the property into 2 lots. The existing residence would become the principal residence of the west lot, and with a new single family dwelling intended for the east lot. The applicant, Rosie Montgomery, has explained that she has resided on Bowen Island for 50 years, most recently with the mortgage of the property having come to term and the bank having considerably increased the rates. The costs of remaining on the property have become prohibitively expensive. So the applicant intends to sell the newly formed property to acquire the funds necessary to allow her to continue living in the house that her late husband built for her and her children. Under the land use bylaw, the current RR3 zoning permits unserviced lots with a minimum average lot area of 2 hectares and a minimum lot area of 1 hectares. The proposed subdivision would split the lots into 0.57 hectare portions. Therefore, the proposed zoning designation is SR1C. So that's an existing zone variation of the SR1 zone, and it permits a minimum and average lot area of 0.4 hectares for unserviced lots. Under the official community plan, the current RS designation allows unserviced lots with a minimum average parcel size of 1 hectare. So again, considering the proposed sizes of 0.57 hectares, the property has to be converted to a new OCP designation. And as mentioned, one does not exist for that lot size, so new one has to be made. Regarding surrounding properties, they are all also within the RR3 zoning and the RS OCP designation. And I'll just point out that around a dozen properties south of Bolton Road are within a zone variation SR1C, which allows for the 0.4 hectare lot sizes. So just pointing that out because that is the same zoning that's intended for that they're requesting for the subject property. And important to note, so regarding amenity contributions, so 2 policies are typically discussed during rezoning. So one's the conservation development policy, and then the other, the affordable housing policy. So neither are totally applicable here. The conservation development policy asks for a designation of at least 50% of the land to be protected from further development. So, that would defeat the purpose here, where the whole intent is to carry out new development on the unoccupied half of the property. I will note that the applicants have identified. See if I can see on the. Yeah, this is a bit better. They've pointed out that the rear of the property, so the far west, has some just natural tree area that they've basically pointed out could be provided as contributions. So that's the size of maybe a third to a half of an acre. So yeah, there's that, but yeah, so worth noting that there's something offered there, just not quite going along with the conservation policy since it's not 50%. Then otherwise, as for the affordable housing policy, so that encourages a range of housing types with an affordability component included. So at this time, there are no plans for the future new residence, and its design, as well as the inclusion of a secondary suite, would be the decision of the new owner. And so otherwise, yeah, thank you all, and I'll turn this over to the committee for discussion.
Okay, thank you, Drew. Just to clarify for my sake, what if the OCP is going to be adjusted to allow for this, will they get the same designation as the Bolton Road properties that allow up to 0.4 hectares to be lot size, or will it be written in that it's 2 lots of 0.57 hectares, so that are we looking truly at what will be 2 lots versus down the road, could it be further subdivided to 0.4 without a reapplication?
So this rezoning and OCP amendment, so it'll only affect this property, so not changing the designation of the property south of Bolton Road. that's an important note with those properties, or as to why those are a bit different. So I looked into those properties, since it's important to note, since it's kind of being used as or being brought up as a precedent. And yeah, those when those were subdivided, when they were rezoned and subdivided, only required a rezoning, did not require an OCP amendment, and that was because Bowen was, so that was about 20 years back. Bowen was under a different OCP, and it allowed the language was just a bit different, and under that same designation, it actually had language that allowed for smaller lots. Since then, we've adopted a new OCP, so on a map, it still looks like the same designation, but just the wording behind that designation has changed over the years. So, anyways, to summarize, yeah, those lots south of Bolton were done properly, even though it looks different than what we're looking at now. But yeah, this application is only to rezone and change the OCP designation of this property. And sorry, and the other question, no, it could not be subdivided further down the road. The zoning designation that we'll change it to will already prevent it from going further than that.
Okay, thank you. Anyone? I can't see everyone, so please speak up if you would like. Oh, DG has her hand
Yeah.
up. Go
Yeah,
ahead, DG.
I have a question. Drew, could you put the other map with yeah, that one. So I guess my question has to do with the lots to the south across the road there. In terms of those lots, I think you answered in part, they were subdivided to the smaller size, around 20 years ago. Is that correct? And I'm just wondering about the implications of if the lot under question gets subdivided down to that same size, or it's a similar size, what is there indeed a precedent for some of the other lots nearby to also be subdivided down to the size? So then we would end up with a neighborhood of all similar to the lots on the other side of the road.
Yeah, it would sort of be further in the precedent. I mean, again, they're already looking at those lots south of Bolton as a precedent, but yes, we're allowed this to go ahead. Yeah, there are surrounding lots. I mean, best example is directly south of it. There's that 1354 property looks to be the exact same size and shape as this one. So yeah, those properties could make applications as well. But I'll just note that this is only changing the zoning and OCP designation of this property. So it's not like we rezone this property and other properties will start subdividing. Each one of those would have to apply for a rezoning and OCP amendment as this one has. So there'd still be the opportunity to say yes or no to each one, but
yeah, but the rationale
Yeah,
would be the same.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I mean, my thoughts are that to not provide the requirements of conservation development policy is a little problematic, or any amenities to speak of. I think the treed area on the west side is really so small as to not being incredibly significant. And I'm wondering if there are any other attributes of the property that could somehow be used or to reach some of our goals. I mean, the G3 to the west, is that what is that, Crown land?
that's correct.
Mm-hmm. We don't have a easy way to pull up trail systems in there, I suppose. Although it doesn't look like their lot would lend itself well to a trail through. It's quite developed, it seems, already, and cleared. What are other people's thoughts about that this request does not follow the conservation policy that is supposed to be upheld?
Can I just, can I ask Drew, do you have a sense of what's the nature of the property, it looks like it's entirely cleared or nearly entirely cleared.
Yeah, there's definitely a cleared area prepared in the lower end or the east end of the property, and that site plan, I guess I can point to it. They've got a white polygon or white rectangle there indicating just like the literal intended location for the house, and that's also based on ideal septic location, which is another white box to the right of that. And then as well, there's also they've already put a driveway across the whole property, down the length of the whole property. It's basically it's very steep property, so it has to be a switchback. So yeah, I guess we're kind of looking at the property and pretty much in the state that it'll be. Like it's already kind of been preliminarily set up like that, and yeah, not a whole lot of change.
Is the rural designation, I mean, like, what's that protecting in this instance to have a lot that big with only one house on it? What is that doing? Like, is there, I realize that might not be an easy question to answer, but it seems kind of silly to have a cleared lot with only one house on it.
Yeah, like the rural zoning, I mean, it gives agriculture as a permitted use, whereas the zone they'll be changing to, I don't believe does. But yeah, it's such a steep property. I don't think they can realistically use it for agriculture.
Okay.
I
Part of
think they had up at the top, I think they had like a lavender farm.
Okay.
Mhm. And I think, Ben, part of the rural designation and our OCP is to maintain a rural type environment for the island, given that that's part of its character. So I think that is partly not to have lots of little lots with a house on each one. Mind you, there's the housing shortage, but that's another committee's purview. I mean, I'm wondering the very east side where there is a driveway going through, and it looks there's deciduous trees there, it looks like. Is that an option, that whole right half of the proposed new lot could be restricted from development so that the vegetation there can, over the coming decades, green up and provide more of a greenway from the neighboring forested areas. So that's something that can be proposed to the proponent, applicant.
Yeah, we can look at that as a covenant, require a covenant on title to that effect, I think.
And perhaps that would also prevent, an application further down the road for that property to be split again into, if there is a covenant on half of it. But I'm also thinking we are a group that does like to get on site and have a look at the characteristics and what potential ecological features might be of value. So I don't know the timeline at your end and for staff. And I see Penny's got her hand up, so I'll just finish with that maybe we should be planning a site visit. Penny, go ahead.
Yeah, thanks, Claudia. Yeah, that same thing sort of came to my mind of being on site, because behind there is, I don't think there's good access to the Mount Gardner Trail. And I could be wrong, that goes along the water to some of those water access properties. I'm wondering if there's potential. Historically, I know I've walked through Enswell Farm to get up onto those trails. So I'm just wondering if this could potentially be a trail winding up through there. I mean, it's hard to see. It doesn't look like it from this map, but maybe being on site, there'd be
Do
other
you have any
opportunities.
photos, Drew, that would give us more context? Probably not. You've got this amply prepared, but just maybe even we could pull up Google Maps and see where there are connections, or we can do that after we have our site visit.
Yeah, either way, yeah, I don't have anything open right now. I can try and just quickly pull up the Bowen Trails map. But otherwise, but yeah, site visit can certainly be done. That'd be
Yeah. Well,
well.
while Drew's doing that, I'll just jump in. I mean, overall, just given the fact that the neighborhood has smaller lots, right across the street, I think my inclination is let's see if we could work with the proponent to come up with something that would meet, at least start to achieve some of the conservation values. Like I like the idea of that covenant or trying to get uh, the lot covered in green space, but I don't know. It just given that the fact that the neighborhood already has lots that size, it sort of seems kind of
However,
reasonable.
I take your point, DG, but I'm concerned that the proponent is certainly saying that this is a precedent at Bolton Road, but as
Mhm.
Drew has pointed out, that was during a different OCP, so we can't
Mhm.
be going back in history and saying, oh, well, they got to do it then. And if it's not written in now, then it doesn't mean that it should necessarily be done. We've obviously changed our perspective on that. And this would certainly set a precedent for the neighboring lots that are of equal size wanting to subdivide against what our current OCP guidelines are. Any other thoughts while Drew's looking for a map?
I can actually show it real quick. There's nothing to really show, I guess. Um, looks like there's nothing directly nearby, but let's see. So yeah, it's finished. Yes, there's one off right across from Bolton, but the other property we're looking at is I'm not quite sure what these roads are up here, but yeah, no trails right off the back of it or anything.
Mhm. Well, it definitely does make me think that we want to look at some satellite imagery as well and see where there are greenways that could potentially um, match up with the Crown land, and if anything can be achieved there towards conservation goals during the subdivision. And it's December now. Does just a very general show of hands, would people be able to head out next week sometime, potentially, and for an hour and have a look at the property? I can do that. Can't see everyone. Penny, was that a no?
That was a maybe, depends
Was a
what day it is.
maybe.
Yeah, I'm a maybe as well.
Same here.
Okay, well, even if we had a couple of us go out and report back, that would work. Drew, would the proponent be amenable to us having come out to have a look?
I'm sure she would. I'll get in touch with her quickly. And we haven't done any site visits yet, but yeah, sure she'll be willing.
I mean,
Okay.
I do kind of like the idea of what Penny brought up about, is there a way to have a trail access up to Crown lands? Like that might help meet the overall goals.
Mhm.
A dedicated access up there. I mean, it's steep, but I don't know. Maybe it's a possibility that when, being out on site to take a view of that.
Mhm. Oh, definitely. Yeah, have that in mind when we're out there.
Mm-hmm.
And is the west lot, the driveway crosses through the east lot, and is that how Rosie Montgomery accesses her own property? Or
That's
you have a separate driveway somewhere?
it'll be a shared driveway. So yeah, they'll split off at one point and allow the west lot to, or sorry, allow the east lot to park there and access their house, but it'll continue on to the west and allow Rosie access.
I see. Okay. All right, if no one else has any other comments, then thank you very much, Drew, for filling us in today. And I think we'll set up a site meeting next week, and then we can I guess at our next meeting review that and recommend at that time what we think of the application. Okay, thanks so much, Drew. Welcome to stick around, but if there's something else you'd rather do, I suppose. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you guys.
Thank you. Bye. All right, and
Yeah, so I'm gonna set an action item to set up, but you guys will
yes,
do
please.
that, yeah?
Yes, Carla, is that something that you could join us on? And perhaps set a doodle poll?
Yeah, I can, sure, I can do that. Well, maybe Drew can talk to the proponent first and figure out if that's gonna work and what day that might work, so. But
Okay.
yeah, but Drew and I will talk about it.
Okay, thank you. All right, now I'm just going to adjust my screen so I can see the agenda. Okay, so we are onto number 5. This is business arising from the minutes, and it's regarding the Grafton Lake Management Plan that there was a workshop for. And Carla, do you want to take it?
Thanks, Claudia. So, right, we had a workshop last week, the week before last, and thank you all for coming. There was a lot more people than I expected, so that was great that everybody showed up, and it was nice to hear from everyone. And yeah, it wasn't as workshopy as I intended, but I was really happy to get all those really valuable opinions. And so I sent around some notes from the workshop that I took. And I think overall what I heard from everyone is that a holistic watershed management plan is the preferred option when it comes to how we're going to plan to manage Grafton Lake, rather than a park plan, even though there is an option there for a phased plan that we could maybe consider, our short-term risks, our long-term risks. I think that so when I took that back to other staff and spoke with them, and I think we're all in agreement that the holistic watershed management plan is the way to go. And so I think that as a group, there's definitely going to be opportunity for us to meet again and talk a little bit more about terms of reference potentially. But for the moment, while we are going through our budgeting right now, I think we're just, I was going to look for a recommendation from the committee to include a $100,000 expenditure in the budget for the Grafton Lake Watershed Management Plan. And in terms of, I will just mention, in terms of funding, we are going to be applying for the Watershed Security Fund again. We applied earlier this year and were unsuccessful, and but they have another round of grant funding coming out. It's due in a couple of days. So we've met with them, the decision makers for that grant, and figured out some ways to maybe strengthen our application a little bit. I'm not particularly confident that we will get that grant because I think it was really oversubscribed. But I think we have, a shot. So we're going to try. If that's the case, then we, can get $50,000 worth of funding toward that project. But for the moment, if we want to, make it happen, we should just put it into the budget. And so I think it's on council's strategic plan to be completed, well, to at least be started next year. So that's why we have them in the budget for next year. So yeah, open to discussion or any thoughts on that.
I think DG has her hand up.
Yeah, just a question on the 100,000. Was that going to be coming from the parks budget or from any other departments or just parks?
So I've spoke briefly with Kristen about it, with our CFO, if anyone doesn't know who Kristen is. And so she is, she said, yeah, so some of it would be like from the general, like overall funds, which is, you know, parks or not. When we would also have a portion coming from the Cope water users.
Oh, good, because I was going to say it shouldn't all be just parks, right? Because, you know, Cope is a big player in there too. So although they're, I know, kind of strapped with a lot of other expenses, but I would like to see it shared between departments. Yeah.
So Carla, did you say you had a number in mind for what would come out of the parks budget of that 100,000, or is it 100,000 from the parks?
No, we haven't actually determined. I mean, I think someone threw out a half and half kind of thing, but it's not, I mean, but there's been no decision made on that, or no lengthy discussion on it either. So
Okay, well, in our recommendation, we could add in the recommendation that DG just mentioned, that this not be fully from the budget of the Parks, Trails and Greenways or Parks budget, but shared with other users and interested parties. Any other comments? Sorry.
Would you like me to? I have a recommendation drafted. Do you want me to bring it up so you can look at it?
Yes, please.
Yeah. Okay.
And I'm really glad actually that to go for the holistic approach. I'm really glad that that's the way we're going to go.
Sorry. Can you see that?
Not yet.
Oh,
yes.
There we are.
Okay, good.
So I was gonna just mention, I don't think it's super necessary to put in that it be funded by the Kobe water users as well. I think that's already planned for. We just haven't determined what amount would be.
Okay. I would
and that's
probably take out complete the Grafton Lake Watershed Management Plan, because I don't think it would be completed, right? To initiate or to begin.
Initiate.
Any comments?
I think we're hoping that the $100,000 will cover the whole plan. Like that would be the entire expenditure. They probably wouldn't all get finished in 2025, but I think that that's kind of the intention.
Oh, I see.
That.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
So even if that gets carried over into 2026, it's more, that's what the expenditure is, I guess.
So maybe my suggestion of initiate is not as good then.
Yeah, I mean, it's not.
And is that a realistic number, Carla? I don't know how much this sort of thing would cost.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a big, it depends on there on what we want to include, but I know that there's been quite a bit of work done already. And you know, some of that can be used as a basis, as some baseline, like we do have some baseline data to go off of. You know, we have a pretty ambitious plan at this point. I think that the $100,000 should cover everything. And I mean, I hope that, yeah, I think, sorry, DJ, that's not a very good response, but yes, I think it is a good amount to cover everything we'd like to cover.
We did have a watershed management analyst with us at the workshop, which was great. And
Yes.
he did, you know, he wasn't committed to it, but he did, I think, indicate that 100,000 might suffice.
Okay, okay, good.
I was not able to attend the workshop. Carla, could you give like a 30-second synopsis of what Grafton Lake Watershed Management Plan is?
Yeah. So I think that what we would try to do with a holistic watershed management plan is look at, an assessment of all of the different values of the watershed. So recreational, the fact that it's drinking water, ecological values, cultural values, all of those things. And then we do an assessment of all of the threats to the watershed. So, things like development, stormwater runoff, and all those things that might affect, and another assessment too, probably of water quality and water quantity. And I think that's, for ecological values, and for drinking water protection as well. So we look at all of those things, and then I guess really just try and come up with a management plan, management strategies on how to protect those values, and look at some adaptive management strategies and monitoring to see how that's working, and adapt when it is or not. Yeah.
Great, thank you. So I mean, that would have direct implications on sort of recreational use or parks use of that area.
Yeah, so that would be included. And I think part of the workshop was we're trying to talk about a little bit, like, do we need to do the full watershed management plan, and do we need it right now? Or do we want to look at just what the park uses are and how to manage the park in order, and I mean, that's also has implications for protecting the watershed and protecting ecological values. But I think that, yeah, the preference was just that we would look at it holistically rather than piecemeal, which is what's been done up to now as well, is that there's been a lot of little pieces looked at, but that, we're better off trying to look at it all as one, and see how, like, cumulative effects might also affect the watershed. So
yeah, that's great. Thank you.
yeah.
Thanks, Ben. And thank you, Carla. Sarah, maybe instead of initiate, you said you could put in to create. That would cover our bases, I think. Or there could be a better word.
Develop, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Does anyone want to discuss this more before we vote on this recommendation? Okay. And Sarah, may I ask if you could unshare your screen?
Yeah, of course.
Then I'll be able to see everybody.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, great. So can I have someone move the recommendation? And Sarah, now that I've taken it off the screen, can you please read it out to us?
Of course. That the Parks, Trails and Greenways Advisory Committee recommend that council direct staff to include a $100,000 expenditure in the 2025 budget to develop the Grafton Lake Watershed Management Plan.
Thank you. I'll move it. Does anyone want to second it? Jeremy, all in favor? Unanimous, thank you. And DG, you're okay without any caveat that it not all come from parks? Okay.
Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
Okay. All
It's
right.
suitably vague, so they can sort it.
Yeah. Okay, thank you, Carla. And we're coming back to you because it's 6 on the agenda, 6.1 staff update from the Manager of Environment and Parks Planning. Carla.
Thank you. Just a couple of updates from me. So I just want to let you know that the bridges are finished on Maggie's Walk around the golf course loop. So that trail has been reopened, and it was a really big and challenging job for our crew, and we're really happy with the finished product. So go check those out if you have a minute. And then I wanted to also let you know that the Squamish language beach names were received by council today at the council meeting. So Aaron Williams, who's a consultant for the Squamish Nation, came and presented the names, and it was a really lovely presentation. And he told us all about the how the names were chosen, and the different things. They came and visited in the summer. He came with his mother and his aunt, and they talked about all the different things that they saw at each beach, and what was special about them, and yeah, how the names were chosen, and taught us the pronunciations, which I don't feel confident enough to say right now, if that's all right. But I would love if you would go and watch the video. I think it's really kind of nice and heartfelt, and just like a really lovely, feel-good kind of experience to watch his presentation if you have the time. And then we will have recordings of the names, the pronunciations on our website. We'll have some communications around that, but not until after we submit the names to the BC Geographic Names Office. And part of that is to have them officially adopted by the province, which isn't super important. Not all of our geographic names are official with the province, but part of that is that it appears on maps, like federal and provincial maps. But another part of it is that they do a lot of work for us, where they will send the names out to all the different organizations that could be affected. So like, tourism operators, search and rescue groups, and different, local governments, regional governments that might be affected. And so they'll send them out for comment. So it'll be another 6 months or so before they're officially adopted. But that's where we're at with that. So more to come in a little while for that. And
Carla?
yes.
Are there English version, like translations into English of what the Squamish names?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the translations for the Roger Curtis Beach / Pebble Beach is Place of Pebbles, and then the Blue Water Crayola Beach is marked colored on the cheek or side. And there's like quite a long story with why those are like that, and so it is a little bit homage like to the names that were already given to the beaches, but there's actually a lot more to it that made them really appropriate for the beach. And the one for the Blue Water Beach is like related to an old story about like kind of flooding, and just like how the I really don't want to
Okay,
just
we should
like
watch
butcher the
video.
story, because it was really wonderful, and I
Okay.
don't remember it well enough to tell it, but it's really interesting.
Okay, thank you.
And so, but actually the official names, they won't have like a translation below them, so it will just be the Squamish name and then neighborhood beach kind of thing.
Okay.
So it won't be on the signage or anything, and have a transition in the signage. The other thing that we've done, Sarah and I, Sarah's our communications coordinator, apart from being the community, the committee coordinator. So she and I were working on some communications for the House Sound Catsum House Sound Biosphere. So we have a new web page up for that, if you have a chance to check that out. And I think we'll be working on some signage with them in the new year. Like something to install at the somewhere looking out over the sound, so maybe on the dock, or maybe in if Metro Vancouver is into it, at the causeway. So that's coming up next year. And then this week I'm going to be going to a kickoff meeting for a Pacific North Shore and Sunshine Coast Regional Climate Collaborative Project, which I'm kind of excited about. It's not so much in the purview of this committee, but I know some people might be quite interested in the kind of regional approach to coastal resilience, and the idea is that we would advance key climate adaptation initiatives with the help of regional partners. And I think that is it for me.
Thank you, Carla. Ben?
I just want to say thank you, Carla, to you and to everyone else at the municipality for making those beach names happen. That's awesome. It's really, really great step towards like wider spread reconciliation, and I really appreciate the work in particular that you've done on it. It's really great. What a great development for the island.
Great, thanks, Ben.
All right. Well, that would bring us to the end of our updates, because Sue Ellen wasn't able to join us. She was going to give us a council and island trust update. So we'll wait to hear from her next time. There are information items attached, and you haven't had a look at those, you can. One thing I did want to point out is that Chuck has resigned from the committee, and he would have liked to have seen us meeting more in person. Wasn't that keen on this format with the Zoom meetings. I've thanked him, and I know that the staff will be sending him a thank you.
It's already happened. We sent him one.
Okay, good, for his time. So we'll miss him, and then we have question period, but there are no members of the public joining us tonight, I don't think. Is that right, Sarah? No, okay. So then it's our next meeting is to be determined. Presume that will be a January meeting.
Yeah, I'm away up until about the 22nd of January.
Okay.
So
Maybe in the last week of January. Shall we try for our regular day is Tuesdays, unless someone what date of January would that be? Anyone have a calendar?
14th, 21st.
yeah, I'm out of the country until the 22nd. So it would need to be like if you wanted a Tuesday, maybe the 28th.
Sure. Does that seem to work for most, at least at this point? Yeah, okay, great.
Okay. I'll send out a poll.
Okay.
All right, thank you. And then we have adjournment on the agenda. Can I have someone move to adjourn this meeting? DG, and seconded by Penny. Well, thank you very much. Let's all show a hand of support for adjournment, and
Yes.
thank you for coming. And it's nice and short tonight, and we'll hopefully see each other potentially at the site visit next week. But if not, a happy holiday season to you all, and we will see you in the new year.
Okay, nice to see
Night, everyone.
everybody.
Thank
Okay.
you,
Thanks,
Sarah.
Claudia.
Thank you,